All right, I see a lot of known names joining this webinar already. Thank you. Let's get started now. Uh, Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on whichever part of the world you're joining from. I'm thrilled to have all of you join this webinar. Quick introduction. I'm Kalyan, your host for today's webinar on maximizing test coverage with data-driven testing. I'm part of the product marketing team at Testsigma. I also have with me my colleague Divesh, who's part of the product marketing team. Uh, So we will start the webinar shortly. A lot more folks are joining. All right. Before we begin the webinar, right, some quick housekeeping notes. One, the session is currently being recorded for the benefit of everyone who's registered. This recording will be shared with you after the webinar so that you can reference it or share it with your colleagues if you find it interesting. The second thing is we will have a dedicated Q&A time towards the end of the session. Please feel free to ask any questions that you may have, be it about data-driven testing or anything about Testsigma. All right. With that said, I would like to get into the topic itself, which is data-driven testing, and how does it benefit uh, you as a tester in maximizing your productivity. So let's get to the agenda. So there'll be a very quick introduction to Testsigma for those of you who are not very familiar with Testsigma. We'll give you an overview of what Testsigma is, what are its capabilities. Followed by that, we will get into the actual meat, which is about data-driven testing for increased coverage. We'll talk about what necessitates data-driven testing and what kind of benefits can you uh, see from data-driven testing. Then we will talk about how you can parameterize your tests within Testsigma, how you can create tests that can be repeated for various scenarios. We will try and do that. Then we will also kind of talk to you about how you can import, add, or generate test data directly all within Testsigma. And then finally, we will get to the Q&A part. So with that, a bit about in Testsigma. Testsigma is a low-code test automation platform. What it essentially does is it allows you to create tests in plain English, the way you would probably write your manual test cases, or probably the way you would explain your scenarios to any of your colleagues. So it makes it easy for everybody to automate tests. You can test web applications, mobile applications, APIs, databases with Testsigma. Along with your functional testing, you can also do visual testing within Testsigma. And built in, you have a test lab where you can run tests on over 2000 plus real mobile devices and about 800 plus browser operating system combinations. We also have about 30 plus native integrations with all your CI/CD tools, project management tools, bug reporting tools, and stuff like that. So that's about Testsigma. And Testsigma typically, what we've seen is that typically unifies more than 20 use cases into one tool. Let's say, for example, you have reporting, you have multiple tools for reporting, test data management, you have multiple frameworks within your org, and you have multiple, uh, let's say, infrastructures for testing, you're running your tests. Testsigma unifies all of this with one single platform. We are trusted by multiple Fortune 500 companies, including the likes of Samsung, Honeywell, Cisco, IEEE, Hansard, and other companies. So with that said, we will get into data. Why data-driven testing? Uh, I'll start with a very simple use case about data-driven testing. Uh, a lot of people create multiple tests, right? Let's say, for example, you have a login functionality, and then you want to test both the positive scenarios and the negative scenarios. Uh, and probably you would want to do some kind of testing around which ones are functional versus which ones are not. Then you end up creating multiple tests and you end up spending a lot of time creating those tests. So that's why I think there's this concept that has been started, which is called the data-driven testing, which essentially separates your application layer or your test with your data layer. This allows you to run multiple iterations of uh, parameters for your same set of test cases. So that's why data-driven testing. You can, like I said, you can run multiple combinations of scenarios in just one run. You'll be able to reuse test data across various tests. And what we've seen this do is that in some cases with our customers, 50% of the production defects have been reduced, and this can be directly attributed to data-driven testing because they have more coverage now. They do multiple scenarios. They test multiple scenarios in shorter span of time, leaving more room for fixing issues whenever they're identified. So yeah, that's a little about data-driven testing. And Devesh from our product team will walk you through what we will be covering in the next 15-20 minutes within this demo. Devesh, over to you.
Hey, thanks, Kalyan. So, what we'll do today, hello everyone, thank you for joining. So, what we'll do today is we'll see a live example of how data-driven testing can actually be leveraged using Testsigma and how it provides the multiplicity that Kalyan was mentioning, right? You record a test case once, and even if you wanted to run 200 times with different data sets to do positive scenarios, negative scenarios, a wide range of coverage scenarios for form filling applications, we'll quickly see how that can be achieved to Testsigma from start to end. And for that, what we'll do is we'll use a flight booking website. We have a sample flight booking website where we'll log in and we'll try and book a flight. And then we'll make it data driven to try and cover, let's say, all of the 198 country combinations that you have in the world, right? You want to ensure all the phone numbers are correct, the country codes are correct, the passport numbers are correct, all of that. So then we'll show you how you could do it, leverage it using data-driven testing. So I'll just start sharing my screen. Let's just take the URL. We'll record. We'll say create step. Sorry, I think I added the wrong URL. Replace it. Yes, now it has changed. Right. So you saw even if I had the wrong one, Testsigma tells me it's not accessible, right? So you have all those tool sets built in if you make a mistake. And we'll click on record. That's where Testsigma's recorder comes in while you perform all your manual actions. Like you see, it's all already here. Perfect. Let's do login, admin@testsigma.com. Continue, add a password, submit. And all steps are being recorded as we do it. And let's search flights. Let's select book now. And this is where it gets interesting. Now you have to add all of these details, right? So the first time you add it yourselves, just like you would do when you were testing this, yourself. Select a few values. Existing stock. Then adding all these details. All done. Let's add a phone number. Okay. Seats, and you see all of those details have been captured here. Everything as we've been doing, all have been captured. Continue to add-ons, and we've reached this page, right? So once we're here, say continue payment. We need a 16-digit card number, so we'll just add a random number here. Then my name. Just say okay. CV number is this, and we'll say pay now. Right, and the flight is booked. All of those steps have been recorded. So you just performed one iteration of your test. Let's say you had to do this only for India or Afghanistan or Albania, right? And you performed it. Now, if you had to do it for all of the countries that are in the list, right? You'd have to do it 198 times or 200 times, as many countries are there. So we've done this. Now what you have to do is you have to create something called test data profile, right? So we have all of these hard coded inputs. In Testsigma, what you can do is simply create a test data profile, which is nothing but a set of rows and columns. I have four, you can add 400 or 4,000. And I have different names, different genders, all of the different years, passport numbers, countries, nationalities, phone numbers, emails, credit card numbers, everything that you want to test under the sun for your entire workflow. You can add them 200 times, 300 times, 400 times, right? And how do you use this with your test case? That's where it gets interesting. You just come here and you say, okay, I want my test case to be data driven, right? You just select the test data profile, type webinar, sorry, and we'll just say data driven, right? And so I think both have the same name, and we've set it up. Now that we've selected our test data profile, all we have to do is go here and say, hey, replace this hard coded input with a parameter value. So I want to replace it with first name, and I say update step. Now what it will do is, instead of using the hard coded value, it will replace this value with the first name field here when it executes for the first row, right? And same for the second row, and same for the third row, and same for the all thousands of rows that you might want to add, right? You want to replace last name? Sure, let's go ahead. We'll change it. We'll select the last name as well, right? So we replace last, and so on and so forth, right? You could replace every input in your entire test case, all the way from the countries to the passport codes to the phone numbers to your credit card data, everything CVV. And now using your test data profile, you enabled testing this across all of your 200 country combinations that you want to ensure everything works fine, right? So in the interest of time, I recreated a application and I kept it ready. So what we'll do is we'll go to one of our test cases that are pre-created. Leonard raised a hand. Okay. Go to one of our pre-created test cases and we'll show you. So you see, I've replaced everything, all the inputs that I wanted, including passport number, country, date, month, year, everything with my test data profile, right? And what I've also gone ahead and done is, if for some situations, let's say, right, you don't want to give a name, you want it to be generated by Testsigma itself because it's not a parameter that you're interested in testing with various different values, right? What we've gone ahead and done is, instead of using first name from there, I've said use a random data generator with 10 characters. And what Testsigma will do is, you don't even have to give us the data in your test data profile. We'll just fill it in with random data, right? If you want last names, yes, we have data generators that follow specific rule sets. So I've chosen last name. So every time it will generate a new last name called Jones, Jackson, from a variety of lists of the names that we have, and will populate that all the way down to, if you want to even generate, mobile numbers, sorry, emails randomly, because you're not going to give, particular emails. We also have random email generators. So there is a lot of data that you don't even have to give us in your test data profile if it's not critical to you. Testsigma will go ahead and just add it for you, right? You don't have to do anything. Now, once this is done, you just say run, you select all the combinations that you want, and it will start running, right? So we can run it now. It will take a few minutes. So I have something that's pre-created. And if you see here, we have all the 4 iterations, right? So I recorded my test case once. I just used the test data profile to change all the values in my second step. And now for each step, it's using all of the data for that row. So it's using all of the data for John that we had here, right? And it's creating and showing us, you know, showing us all of the inputs that it did, all of the screenshots, every test has passed. If you want to see, any random screenshot also of the execution, we can just click the step and we'll see, right? Because I use the random name, it's giving me a 10-letter random name, a random last name based on the data generator, and rest everything is taken from the input that I gave, right? If you want to see the random email that we generated also, we can go all the way to that step and we'll see a random email that it added, right? So you don't have to give us any data that's not critical to you. You can only use data that's vital to you and that you want to test. Right? So now all of my iterations have passed. And like this, I can add 200, 2000, any number of iterations across to ensure that my applications follows all of the rules, but create the test case only once and it runs from a set of data that you give the test case. All right. Even further, you can test negative scenarios with Testsigma, right? So what I did here is I told Testsigma that, hey, I expect this Emma iteration to fail. And why will it fail? It's because I gave it a letter instead of a phone number, right? So my validations here should fail. But this is a negative scenario. I expect this test case to fail. So what Testsigma does is you see ETF no, no, no. Here it's ETF yes. That means you expected it to fail. And that's why the result is passed, right? Because it's aligns with what you told Testsigma to do. And if we go all the way, everything's worked fine. If we go all the way to the final step here, you'll see that it also tells you that, hey, please enter a valid contact number, right? So you even have evidence that it failed due to the right reason, right? But your test case is still passed because it was a negative scenario that you wanted to test. So you could also do negative scenarios testing with Testsigma using the expected to fail flag just by letting Testsigma know that this is an iteration you expect to fail, right? Um, Going even further, if you don't want to use Testsigma's UI, to enter data, what you can simply do is you can create a Google sheet or you can create an Excel sheet with all the data that you want, right? I just created this sheet before the call. I entered instead of 4 rows, I just entered 20 rows of data. And you can go on to Testsigma, you just say test data profiles, you just say import, and you can import the file and it will create the test data profile for you. So I've already pre-imported it. I kept 2 ETF flags as yes, because I expected those to fail. And all of the data is imported, right? So you don't really have to reinvent the wheel. If you have a set of XLS files or XLSX files, right, which has all the data, you don't have to worry about coming in and manually entering it here. You just upload it to Testsigma. Testsigma will completely load it. You just go to your test case, replace your hard-coded values or plain text values with the parameter values from here, and just start running your test cases. You've recorded it once, you've edited it once, and now it will run for all of the 200, 2000, 20,000 iterations that you have. Perfect. All right, I think that was a very quick demo. If anyone has any questions, I think we're open to questions now. Kalyan?
Oh, thank you, Devesh. I think we have a bunch of questions already. If you have
Sure.
any, if all of you have questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box that you can see, or you can just put them in the chat and we'll take them up one by one. For now, we already have a set of questions. I will start putting out those questions. So, Devesh, will all the tests run in parallel for all the users at the same time?
Yes, you can run parallel tests also with Testsigma. It depends on how many licenses you have. So if you want, they will run sequentially or they'll also run parallel. Yes. If you want your 200 iterations to, instead of take 200 minutes, take 20 minutes. If you have 10 licenses, it will run in 20 minutes. It will run on 10 different machines, 20 sets at a time. Yes.
There's one question around customizing the XPath. How do you customize
Got it.
XPath within Tessy?
So by customizing XPath, I don't know exactly what is your use case, but for every element, Testsigma's captured an XPath, right? So if you want, you could go ahead and edit the XPath value yourself, like completely freely. It's a free input field. You don't like what we captured or what we like is not working for you based on your rule sets or the way your UI is architected, you could go ahead and change it. Or even if you don't want to use XPath, you can use multiple different kind of locator types that Testsigma provides, right? We have a plethora of them. ID, name, link, test, partial text. So if you want to use any of these, you can select those and add the value. And Testsigma will use the given locator value and the element type, right, to identify that element and perform the action in the future.
Rajna, I hope your question is answered. Uh, Same, I am not sure. Okay. Uh, Also, the question is, I don't want to choose from the drop down. Are we
Mhm.
maintaining expected results somewhere? How will Tessigma know whether this test case is passed or failed.
I didn't understand. Can you repeat?
Yeah. I don't, so the first part I'm not really sure. I don't
Uh-huh.
want to choose from the drop down.
Okay.
Next thing is, the next part is, are we maintaining expected results? Whether
Yes.
it's
So
supposed to pass or fail, I believe.
perfect. So this is the flag. Whether so when it's off, you are telling Test Sigma that you expect this iteration to pass. When it's on, you tell Test Sigma that you expect this MI iteration to fail, right? And that's exactly why this MI iteration, even though we see a failure here, right? We see that this iteration failed here, but because you told Test Sigma that you expect it to fail, Test Sigma still tests you is a pass result, right? Because according to you, we clearly tell you that expected to fail is yes, and it's passed because it failed, right? So it's aligned with what you wanted the outcome for this test case iteration to be. It's exactly what you wanted, and that's why it's a pass and not a failure, right? So that your results show it as a pass test case. How you would also, checkbox it in your kind of manual or any other way that you are doing it. I hope that answers your question. If not, please do expand on it. I'll help you out.
Oh. So the other question, Divesh, is the next question. Can you import test cases from test monitor?
Test monitor. I don't think I've tried that. I have not seen test monitor. I don't think I'll be able to answer that. Is test monitor another
It's a
similar
test
low?
man. It's a test management tool.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Then you could, if it's any kind of, a JSON object or any XML object, it should be pretty straightforward for Test Sigma to consume it. I'm pretty sure if you want, like, we could connect and we could figure out how to import it. We already have utilities for import export. So should be probably able to do it very quickly.
Thanks, Divesh. The next question is, if somebody wants to run 200 times, does it mean that, this question is from Santosh. If they
Mhm.
want to run it 200 times, does it mean that they have to add 200 rows in the test data?
Yes. If you want to test it 200 times with different data sets, right? All 200 unique data sets, you'll have to add 200 rows. If you don't want to give us the data and you still want to run it 200 times and your data is not critical, right? Like your data doesn't determine the output of your test case. In which case, like, we used our random data generators here, right? Instead of using data from the sheet or from the test data profile, we use random data generators or data generators which follow a rule set, right? And if you see, we have a lot of data generators. So if you want, you could run it 200 times, but just by using all of the data generator fields that we have, right? Last name, full name function, we have name functions, email functions, files, even generate sample file sizes, ID numbers, date functions, companies, addresses, all of this is built in out of the box. So technically, if you don't have any mission critical data, you could kind of run it with just random data generators or data generators. But if you have 200 rows where you specifically want to test, right? Like the country code and the number of digits in the phone number is 10, example for India. And for the US, it's, I think, 13 or 14, right? If you want to do that kind of testing, then you will have to provide the data in the rows. Yes.
Thanks. Ibrar has a question. Can you show a video of Testsigma running the test case with multiple iterations of the test data? Um,
Mhm.
I mean, Divesh, can you show a quick run
So
test run?
oh, you want to see a live test run?
I think that's what I
Got it.
understand.
Okay. Okay, let's run it. My screen still shared, right?
Yes, yes.
Perfect. Okay. So this will run on Test Sigma's device cloud infrastructure. So as the steps run, you see live data coming in already, even though the execution is not even over, right? You already see live screenshots and all of your existing. Yeah. So see, as it executes, you see all of this come in, and then it'll do iteration one, iteration two, and iteration three, right? All the other three are queued up. Because I'm running on one parallel right now. So we'll just run one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. Let's just continue running. If you have 200, 2000, you'll just continue running for hours as long as you want. So yeah.
Thanks, Divesh.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah.
Ibrar, if
So the
you, again,
First
like I
item,
mentioned,
sorry, sorry to cut. So
yeah,
the first item, sorry. I'll just because it was
yeah,
a someone. I think
yeah, yeah.
someone really wants to see how Testsigma works. So here's the first iteration is already done. I think it took the same amount of time as it took me to do manually, right? Probably lesser. So everything's cleared, everything's passed. If you want, we can see screenshots also, right? And yeah, see it's the payment page screenshots, all the names that I added, all the numbers that I added. If you want to see the form filled screenshots, let's show you the entire form filled screenshot. Yep. So the forms filled again, the name is unique, the last name is unique because I'm using data generators, right? So it won't be the same from one to the other. What's constant is these values which I told the system to use, right? So yeah, I hope that helps you. I just wanted to shout that Sigma was giving you a sorry for the excitement. Yeah,
Divesh, the next question is, can we schedule test cases to run at a specific time every day?
perfect. So once you create a bunch of test cases and add them all to a test plan, right? Because you don't want to test individual test cases, you have an entire regression suite or a smoke suite or a login suite. Once you create a test plan, all you have to do is just click on schedule, right? Schedule a run, and you can tell me to repeat it hourly, daily, weekly, monthly on a specific time, right? And we'll run it every day, week, month on the time that you ask us to, and you'll get all of the run information as you want. So it's perfectly possible to schedule. Yes.
Thanks, Divesh. Santosh has another question wherein it's more about where can I add iterations count for random data generator?
Iterations count for random data generators. I didn't understand. So if your question is around how will it get all of the random data generators for every iterations, the random generator will generate a new one. So when it runs iteration one, for an example for John, right, in generate, when it runs iteration 2 it will generate, when it runs iteration 3 it will generate. So you don't have to worry about adding the iteration count. As many iterations of your rows you have will continue generating data every time, completely new, completely unique from the last one if you want, right? So it happens automatically. You don't have to tell us how many times to generate it. For every iteration, we'll generate. And as many, like there are 20, 19 years, we'll generate 19 times.
Hope this answers your question, Santosh. If not, please elaborate on what you would like to know.
Yeah.
We'll take it up. Uh, there's one question from Sandeep. Can we detect Windows alerts or printer dialog boxes?
Windows alerts or printed dialog boxes. This is on your browser, Santosh. If yes, yes, you can. So
Uh,
should,
all right, we'll wait for Sandeep to get back.
or is
In
it
the
not
meantime,
stop? Yeah.
we'll take the next question. Do you have anything regarding boundary check?
Boundary check. I didn't understand what that means. Do you mean visual testing by
Not
boundary
sure.
check?
I'm not
Uh,
sure.
by boundary check, if you mean like, all of your elements or your web page, everything's in the same bounds as your last execution, yes, that's very straightforward. You just select a step and tell Test Sigma that you want visual testing at this step, right? The first time it runs, Test Sigma will capture a base image of all of your UI. The next time it runs, we'll compare the base image with the second run, third run, fourth run, fifth run, every week over week, build over build, release over release. If there is any difference, even a pixel or couple of pixel worth of difference, Test Sigma will highlight it to you and tell you, hey, your UI is changed. And then you can tell Test Sigma whether it is a planned UI change. Sometimes you even change buttons of colors, positions, locations, all of that. Or is it in genuine error, right? So Test Sigma will highlight that for you automatically. So you don't really have to worry about ensuring everything's the same run after run, release after release.
So, Devesh, I think when Santosh says it's boundary check, what he means is that it's maximum number of character count, etc.
Oh, so you want to test the number of characters 256. Can you cross that or not? Yes. How would it would fail, right? If you add 257, the test case would give you a failure. If you add 256, your test case will pass. So if you give us 257 characters, or you ask a data generator to add 257 characters instead of 10, you give us 257 here, right? The test case will fail because when you submit it, it will not pass, right? Your system will give it an error and your step will fail and it will tell you it's a failure. So once you give the input, the test case status will automatically tell you it's failed.
Thanks, Divish. We'll move on to the next question. This is by Ahmad. Uh,
Okay.
this is about old UI versus new UI. Is in the new UI recorder, why is the feature find element not displayed uh, not like in the old UI?
We'll solve that for you. We're working on, bridging all the gaps. So slowly doing it. You'll see that come to the new as well.
Hope uh, hope this addresses your question, Ahmad.
We'll solve it quickly for you, Emma. I'll try and expedite that for sure. But it is going to be done.
Okay. So can we do Prajna has can we do browser compatibility testing using Testsigma?
Yes. So when you go ahead and so if you see when you run, you can run with any browser combinations or when you even create a test plan, right? So let's just take any sample test plan that I may have. Okay. Right. So you can run the same set of tests on multiple browsers, right? So we have cross-browser testing and we have custom plan testing, right? So let's select cross-browser testing, add any test suits that you want to add, right? So I'll just select one or two. Okay, I think I have no test suits in this. But once you add test suits, you can select any machines that you want, and it will show you. You could select Mac and Safari, Windows, and Chrome, and run all of the test suits on all of these test plans on all of these machines. Yep.
Uh,
Awesome.
there's one more question. Can I have different test data profiles across multiple test environments, development, staging, and both?
Test data profiles across. Yes, so you could create as many test data profiles as you want. And then using our environments, interesting question. Using our environments, could create staging, production, UAT, all of the environments that you want. And then each test case can use the appropriate test data profile on the appropriate environment. Yes. So you just add those selections and it should be possible.
Well, I think we are running short of time, but we'll quickly take a couple more questions if anybody has any.
Sure.
There's one more question. Are there any analytics or reporting capabilities in Testsigma that provide execution performance?
Execution performance. So by that, you want to let me understand. So by that, you want to know something more than how much time it took to execute the test case? Something like it took 2 minutes last time and 3 minutes this time, or the page load took 3 seconds, 4 seconds versus 1 second, something like that. If that's the question, then no, as of now, we don't have that deep dive, but we are working in Q2 on a set of AI driven kind of features where it will give you deep insights into your across all your execution. So it'll use all of that data and then tell you where it sees disparity. So that's something we're working on, but we don't have it as of now. But it's in the pipeline. But with all things AI, right, it takes some time to get it perfectly right. So we're kind of fine tuning it.
Thank you for all your questions. We are running short of time, otherwise we would have taken more questions. We have a bunch more. Just a quick update, right? We have very exciting webinars coming up in the next 1 month. The upcoming one is happening on April 4th. It's going to be hosted by somebody. It's going to be hosted by somebody from our community. She's Alex. She's a senior resident at JetBrains. She will be talking about a tester's guide to CI/CD as an automated quality control system. So if you're interested in this, please find the registration link in the chat box below. I'm pasting it right away. I hope you have the link here. And we also have like a bunch of exciting webinars coming up in the next 15 days, 1 month. So stay tuned for them. And as always, if you have any feedback, let us know. We will also be sharing the recording of the session with you after this is done, probably in the next 1 2 days with you. If you find it insightful, please feel free to uh, share it with your colleagues and then let them know about it. Or if you want a personalized demo, please feel free to reach out to us. we can walk you through any feature that you want to understand or any capabilities that you want to know about. Once again, thank you so much for your time. Uh, Look forward to seeing you all in the next webinar. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.